At the cafeteria, Sakian ordered 2 coffees. Soon, Secretary Yun arrived to place her order and insisted on paying for him. "Thank you," Sukin said politely. Seeing the 2 cups, Yun asked, "Who's the other coffee for?" Sukin replied truthfully, "It's for Yun Seal. She likes to have coffee after lunch." Yun raised an eyebrow. "Oh, I see. I remember you and CH Yun Seal were called to Mr. King's office on your first day. That's not something he usually does for interns. Are you 2 related to him in some way?" "No, it's nothing like that. We're his students, and since our group scored the highest, we were selected to intern at SOV. So explained casually." He nodded, but added, "Oh, I thought either you or Chun Seal might have a personal connection to him." So thought back to how Yuno was indeed connected to Junyong, but he smiled and said, "I wish I were related to him." They continued chatting, and Yun mentioned how she initially worked as the CEO's secretary, but transitioned to working for Mr. Kong after SOV and TJ Corporation merged. Meanwhile, as Yuniel was arranging papers, her phone buzzed. It was a call from Junyong. "Come down to the parking lot," he said. "I told you don't flirt at work," she complained. "Who's flirting? I just called to have you pick up some snacks." "What were you thinking, Yun Seal?" he asked teasingly. Her cheeks turned red, unsure of how to respond. "Fine, I'm coming," she said quickly and hung up. When she reached the car, she asked through the window, "Where is it?" "In the back," he replied. She grabbed the box and asked, "Are you apologizing with this for what happened yesterday?" "With some." Junyong handed her another box. "It's nothing like that. This one's for you." "Open it," he said. She opened the box, and her face lit up. "Oh, it's so pretty. Did you buy this for me?" she asked excitedly. "It's Mean Gene's suggestion. He's great at finding good spots," Junyong said nonchalantly. "So, this is what you meant when you said men speak through actions, right?" she asked, her eyes sparkling. "When did I ever say that?" he teased. "You said it yourself. How can you forget?" she said, puffing her cheeks. "Okay then," she pressed. "Tell me honestly, did you do this because you missed me?" "You've got it wrong," Chun said. "I'm just fulfilling my duties as a husband," he replied with a chuckle. "Let's go upstairs now," he added, stepping out of the car. As they walked, she asked again, "Zhejiang, you really don't want to admit it, do you?" Walking ahead, he threw her own words back at her. "I think it's better if we don't flirt at work." She huffed, thinking, "I'm not the one flirting. He's the one teasing me." When they reached the office, her eyes widened. S stood there. "Hi, Jinyo. It's been a while." Sujin greeted warmly. "Hi, Sujin. What brings you here?" Jinyong asked, confused. "My dad couldn't attend the meeting, so I came on his behalf," she replied, then turned to Yun Seal. "Oh, hi, Yun Seal. I forgot you were interning here. Where are the others?" Her eyes drifted to the box in Yuniel's hands. "Oh, is that from the popular store?" "Juniel must have bought it for me," Sujin said shamelessly, grinning. "Mister, and must have told you about my visit," she added smugly. After Sujin left with Junyong, Yun Sale stood still watching their backs in silence. Moments later, Mr. approached Yun Sale and said, "Miss, please bring those boxes to the pantry." Later, Mr. distributed the cakes among the staff. "Please help yourselves. This is a gift for Miss Sujin from Mr. Kong," he announced. The staff began praising Sujin. "She's so beautiful, and she and Mr. Kong make such a good-looking pair," one of them gushed. "Mr. Kong is really romantic to bring such a lovely gift for Miss Sujin," another chimed in. Yuniel listened silently, her heart sinking at their comments. At the end of the day, Sukin approached her. "Are you heading home, or are you waiting for Mr. Kong?" he asked. "He seems busy," she replied. "But didn't his meeting end a while ago?" he questioned. "Maybe he has other work," she said. "Okay, then I'll head out first," Sokin said and left. Yuniel prepared to leave as well. As she glanced at Junyong's office, she wondered, is he still working? Why hasn't he sent me any message? A sudden thought crossed her mind. Is he still with Sujin? The elevator doors opened, and Junyong stood there looking effortlessly dashing. "Weren't you still in the office?" she asked. He said nothing, pulling her into the elevator. Intertwining their fingers, he held her hand tightly. "What are you doing? What if someone sees us?" she asked, glaring at him. "I don't care. They'll just think we're dating," he replied indifferently. "Were you looking for me?" he asked. "I was just curious since I didn't see you anywhere," she replied. "Or did you think I was with Sujin?" he asked, his tone teasing. "Figure it out yourself," she snapped, running toward the car. "Doesn't he already know how I feel?" she thought of the car. She noticed another cake box. "Oh, there's one more. I didn't get to taste it earlier," she said. "How did it feel when everyone ate your cake?" he asked. "I felt like something was taken from me," she admitted honestly. Then eat this one now, so it won't be taken, he said. She opened the box and smiled when she saw her name labeled on the cake. Did you just buy this? She asked. I had to label it so it wouldn't get taken, he replied. She grinned. I need to show this to Mom and Dad, she said. Seriously, Junyoung frowned. There's no need. Eat it now, or I'll eat it, he warned, trying to grab it from her. Dodging him, she said. He said it's for me, so I'll eat it. She took a bite, and Jeannie Young leaned closer, brushing his thumb against the corner of her lips. Since you're eating yours, I'll have mine, he murmured before capturing her lips in a kiss to taste the cake himself. The next day, as Yunil entered the office, she noticed the way people were acting differently around her. They whispered among themselves, occasionally glancing in her direction. Curious, she approached Sukin. Sukin, did something happen? And does it have anything to do with me? She asked. He hesitated before leaning in. I heard something from Senior Yomi, he said, his tone cautious. Apparently, Mr. said a few things yesterday while handing out the cake, he added, reluctant to continue. So, just tell me it's okay, she urged him. He finally spoke. He said that you're coming between Sujin and Mr. Kong, and has something about you flirting with Mr. Kong, because he's wealthy. He said his words heavy. Yunil listened quietly, her expression frozen. After a moment, she composed herself and replied. So now I'm the bad woman stealing a man from a good woman, she asked dryly, pointing at herself. Yeah, something like that, so admitted quickly, adding, but you don't need to worry. Of course not, she replied firmly. Anyway, our internship ends next week, and I don't want any drama before that. Sokin hesitated for a moment before asking. But Yin Sale, are you sure there's nothing between them? They do seem close, and if Sujin doesn't know about your marriage, her reaction kind of makes sense. Yun's eyes widened at his words, caught off guard. As they were talking, Mission called out, Hello, Miss Sujin. Sujin entered the office elegantly dressed, her presence commanding attention. Hello, everyone. Good morning, she greeted warmly. Yunil watched Sujin, her thoughts racing. Sujin and Junyong, but she quickly dismissed the idea. No, I'm sure Junyong wouldn't hide anything from me. Sudge approached Sukin and Yunil enthusiastically. I wish I had joined your group, she said, finding sadness. Then grabbing Yunil's hand, she announced loudly. Yuni is my close friend. When Junyong and I went to Guam for vacation, she was also there. Turning to everyone, she added, Thank you all for taking care of my dear friend. Bowing politely, Secretary Yun approached them. Miss Sujin, the meeting room is ready. You can wait for Mr. Kong there, she informed her. Sujin nodded and turned to Mr. An. Mr. And I need my favorite macchiato, she ordered firmly. Mr. and turned to Yun Seol. In turn, could you bring it please? He asked curtly. Okay, I'll check the downstairs cafe to see if they have it, Yun Seol replied. But Mr. and stopped her. Miss Sujin only likes macchiato from her favorite cafe, he said with a tone of finality. Before Yunil could respond, Sukin raised his hand. Oh, I know Sujin's favorite cafe. I'll bring it, he offered cheerfully. Sujin glanced at Mr. and disapprovingly. Mr. And even though they're interns, they're my friends. You can't treat them like that, she scolded. Mr. and quickly bowed. My apologies, Miss Sujin. Before anyone could leave to fetch the coffee, Min Jin entered with a cup in hand. Here's your favorite macchiato, Sujin, he said, handing it to Sujin. As she left, Mr. remarked, It must have been Director Kong who told Mr. Jin to bring it since Miss Sujin likes it. Shortly after, Secretary Yun approached Jin Yang. Mr. Kong, Miss Sujin is here, she said. Jin Yang sighed. Oh, her father isn't attending today either. All right, I'll be there, he said, standing up. As he walked past the office corridors, he overheard a conversation. Poor Sujin thinks of Yuni as her close friend. But Yuni is trying to take Sujin's partner. She can't seem to live without a man. Always clinging to Sukin, one voice whispered. Jin Yong clenched his fists, loosening his tie to contain his anger. Does Yin Seol know about these rumors? Is she all right, he wondered. His thoughts raced as he passed the meeting room where Sujin waited. He knew this was all orchestrated by Suji. He glanced inside, his mind searching for a solution to this growing problem. Meanwhile, outside, Mr. announced, Mr. Kong has organized a dinner for Miss Sujin, and all staff are invited. Turning to Yun Seol and Sukin, he added arrogantly, You two can treat it as your farewell dinner, since your internship is nearing its end. After he left, Sukin turned to Yun Seol. You don't need to go if you're uncomfortable, he said with concern. It's fine. Besides, if I don't go, it will only make the rumors worse, she replied with a worried tone. All right, but let me know if you feel uncomfortable, Okay, he assured her. At the dinner, everyone gathered around the table. Mr. and stood up to make an announcement. Thank you all for coming, and thank you, Director Kong, for organizing this dinner at Miss Sujin's favorite restaurant, he said, raising his glass for a toast. As everyone clinked glasses, Yongi noticed Yuniel wasn't drinking. Why aren't you drinking, Yuniel? She asked. Before Yuniel could respond, Junyong stepped in, taking her glass. I'll drink on her behalf, he said. The room fell silent, and all eyes turned to him. Breaking the silence, Junyong continued. Cho Yun-se can't drink, so I'll take this for her. He raised the glass to his lips and drank, his actions shocking everyone. Sujin's face turned pale, unable to hide her disbelief. Mr. and stood up abruptly. Mr. Kong, aren't you and Miss Sujin? Junyong interrupted him sharply. It seems there's been a misunderstanding, he said firmly, setting down the empty glass. I've recently heard some rumors, and I want to clarify that there's nothing between me and Sujin. I don't have anything to do with her. Sujin's face grew even paler at his words. Jinyong continued, his tone softening as he looked at Yun Seol. In fact, I'm already in love with C.H. Yun Seol. The room erupted in whispers and gasps. Sujin's anger flared as she noticed everyone staring and whispering about her. So, noticing the growing tension and Yuniel's discomfort, quickly acted. He grabbed her hand and declared loudly, Unfortunately, Mr. King's feelings are unrequited because Yuniel and I are dating. Yun-S and Junyong's faces froze in shock. What is this guy doing? Yun thought, utterly baffled. Sorry, Mr. Kong, Sukin added smugly. You were just a little too late. The room buzzed with chatter about the unexpected revelation. After dinner, Yuniel turned to Soyen. Even though I was surprised. Thank you for helping me out there, she said sincerely. No problem. I just wanted to make sure you were okay, he replied. From a distance, Junyong watched them, his expression unreadable. Sokin pointed at him and called out, Mr. Kong, if this gossip happens again, I'll take Yun Seol from you. I haven't given up yet. Jinyong remained silent. Meanwhile, Sujin, humiliated, left the dinner early and retreated to a private facility to vent her anger. Miss Sujin, the reporter has arrived, someone informed her. Why a reporter? Did something happen? A young man asked, noticing her agitated state. Raising her wine glass with a smirk, she replied, Because I want to create a story. The man frowned. It's strange. Usually, you call them to remove stories. This time, I need a scandal, Sujin said coldly, her eyes gleaming with malice. And Sujin's first scandal will be a wedding scandal. The next morning at the Kong house, Junyong and Yuniel woke up in each other's embrace. As Yuniel opened her eyes and saw Junyong still beside her, she asked, Are you going to work out today? Junyong smirked and teased. I'd like to, but my arm hurts because of you. Taking his words seriously, she sat up concerned. Oh no, I'm sorry. What does it hurt? She asked, checking his arm. Realizing he was just teasing, she narrowed her eyes. You're messing with me again, she said, increasing the pressure of his arms. Well, what can I do? My wife is too kind, he said with a grin. He got up and grabbed her hand. Come with me. I'll show you my workout place. As they walked together, Yuni hesitated before saying, Actually, I'm really worried about the gossip. What if Sujin finds out about our marriage? Junyong gave her hand a reassuring squeeze. She's just jealous because she didn't get the internship at Sovi. That gossip is already fading. You don't need to worry. When they reached the gym door, Yuniel voiced another concern. I didn't know Sujin was so obsessed with you. I don't care, Junyong replied firmly. As Yuniel stepped inside, her eyes widened at the sight of the well-equipped gym. Do you work out here every day? She asked. Not every day. Sometimes I go outside, he replied, starting his workout routine. Watching him, Yun Seo muttered. I've been living here for months, and you're only showing me this now. You never asked. Junyong replied matter-of-factly. So, I have to ask first now? She retorted, raising an eyebrow. Then in a teasing tone, she added, Do you work out to maintain your body? But you never look in the mirror. So are you trying to impress someone else? Stopping his treadmill, he looked at her and said, Enough questions. You should work out, too. Pulling her onto the machine. As she started walking, she said, But Junyong, don't you think we still don't know a lot about each other? Isn't there anything you want to know about me? Well, I started working out in high school. Over time, it became a habit, and now I enjoy it, he said, brushing off her teasing. So, do I have to compete with your workouts now? You already said you liked me yesterday, she teased with a smirk. Junyong laughed heartily. So, You remember that? It was the first time she had seen him laugh so brightly. She turned her back to him. Fine. If you're embarrassed to admit it, I won't look. She teased. I like you. Cho Yun-seo, he said suddenly, making her freeze in surprise. Later, they decided to visit Yun-seo's grandfather, bringing Jun-seo, Jin-young's younger brother, along since her internship had ended. Miss, as Kong, relieved that the internship was over, bid them farewell, telling them to take care. Watching them leave, she smiled, glad that Yunil's presence had made Jun-young more connected to the family. During the journey, Yuno and Juno sat in the back, chatting cheerfully. Jun-young glanced at them, his expressions slightly sour. When they stopped, Yuni asked, Are you tired? No. I just need to check the car. Jun-young replied curtly. Okay, we'll grab some snacks. Do you need anything? She asked. No, he answered firmly. As they returned, Yun asked, Is the car okay? The car is fine. I think I'm the one who's not okay, Jun-young replied, lowering his head. He then opened the front passenger door. Juno is old enough to sit alone in the back. You sit here, he said, pushing Yunil into the front seat. Back on the road, Yunil handed Jun-young his coffee while he drove, and his mood visibly improved. When they arrived at her grandfather's house, Yunil rushed to hug him. I missed you, Grandpa. I'm sorry it took me so long to visit. Her grandfather hugged her tightly before greeting the Kong brothers warmly. As Yun-seo and Juno walked inside, her grandfather turned to Jin-young. Let's have a chat, he said. Outside the house, he asked, Did your father ever tell you about our family connection? Just that without your help, we wouldn't be where we are today. Jun-young replied truthfully. So, he never told you what almost destroyed your family business? Her grandfather asked. Jun-young frowned. I don't understand. What do you mean? Her grandfather began explaining. Years ago, someone tried to bring down our construction business. It was a loan shark disguised as a businessman. No Young. You mean the father of No Jingu? Jun-young asked, surprised. You know him? The older man asked. I've only heard the name, Yun-seo, and I also know his granddaughter, No Soo-jin. She's in the same department as Yun-seo, and my parents warned me to be careful around the No, Jun-young explained. Her grandfather's face grew serious. Jun-young, Yun-seo is my granddaughter. I raised her without telling her anything about my real job or the threat to our family. Please keep this secret from her until I'm gone. I don't know what they might do if they find out who she is. My time isn't long, and I need you to protect her. Jin-young nodded, his expression grave. I understand, Grandpa. I'll protect her. The next morning, everyone went to Jeoja Island with Yun-seo's uncle. Yuni and Juno were excited to take pictures, and Yunil handed her phone to Jin-young. Can you take a picture of us? She asked as she and Juno struck playful poses together. Jun-young snapped a few shots, and when he showed them the pictures, Yun-seo beamed. Oh, these turn out so good. You're really good at taking pictures. Juno grinned and suggested, Brother, why don't you and Yuni take one together? I'll handle the camera this time. As they stood together, Juno positioned the camera to find the perfect angle. Suddenly, Yuni tugged on Jun-young's shirt and planted an affectionate kiss on his cheek, making him freeze in surprise. Juno turned red with embarrassment, but managed to capture a few good shots. Next, Yunil suggested, Why don't you two brothers take a picture together now? I'll be the photographer this time. The brothers stood side by side, but their postures seemed stiff. Why you both look so awkward? Jun-young, put your arm around Junio's shoulder. Yunil directed. Finally, Jun-young wrapped his arm around Junio, and Yunil captured a perfect shot. Later, as they walked, Juno kept looking at the picture on the phone. It's been a long time since I had a picture with my brother. Thank you, he said to Yuni with a smile. Noticing the sentiment in his voice, she asked, I just realized you two don't seem very close. Why is that? Junzo hesitated, maybe because of the age gap or because he's always busy with work. But don't tell him I said that. Okay, he said, gesturing for her to keep quiet. Tell me what? Jin-young's voice came from behind them as he approached. Oh, it's nothing, Yunil quickly replied, trying to steer the topic away. Jun-young wrapped his arm around her shoulder and said, You should rest for a while. I'll keep Juno company. As Yunil left, Jin-young turned to Jin-seo and asked, So, have you caught anything? Not yet, Jin-seo admitted. Let me help you then, Jin-young offered. After some effort and teamwork, Jino finally caught a small fish. His face lit up with joy, and his excitement was infectious. As the sun began to set, Yunil returned. The three of them sat together watching the sunset. It's been so long since I last saw a sunset here, Yunil said softly. It's still as beautiful as ever. Jinyong turned his gaze to her, unable to take his eyes off her face. Jun Seo, turn around, he suddenly said, making Juno shift his attention elsewhere. Leaning closer to Yun Seol, their faces only inches apart, he pressed his lips to hers, sharing a tender sunset kiss on the island. That evening, during dinner, Junyong carefully placed food on Yun Seol's plate. Her aunt, noticing his attentiveness, expressed her delight. We're not worried about Yun Seol anymore. Her husband is so caring. Her grandfather nodded in agreement. I'm very grateful she married Junyong. He has the same qualities as his father and grandfather, and that gives me peace of mind. After dinner, Juno went to bed while Yun Seo's uncle called everyone to the living room at her grandfather's request. Yun felt a pang of nervousness, sensing what the conversation would be about. As everyone gathered, her grandfather began to speak. Yuni, I've been keeping something from you. I told your uncle and aunt not to say anything either. Last year, I was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, he said, his voice heavy. Tears streamed down Yun's face as she clung to him. I'm sorry, Grandpa. I already knew. I overheard it earlier, but pretended not to know, she admitted, her voice breaking. Her grandfather held her tightly. It's okay, my child. I know you were worried about me. The atmosphere in the room grew heavy and tears formed in everyone's eyes. Grandpa, you don't have to worry about me. Just take care of yourself, Yun Seol said, her voice trembling. Her grandfather smiled sadly. Yunil, I've lived a long life. I've accepted this with open arms. And now, with Junyong and his family as your new family, I can rest easy. Sobbing softly, he added, I am not afraid anymore. As night deepened, Yunil lay in bed, her quiet sobs breaking the silence. Jinyong noticed and turned toward her. Yunil, are you still awake? He asked softly. I'm sorry I woke you, she said, wiping her tears. But I can't stop crying. He wrapped his arms around her, gently wiping away her tears. Are you crying about Grandpa? Don't worry. He'll be okay, he assured her. I knew about it before, but when he said it today, it felt real. And now I feel so helpless. Jinyong, she said, her voice trembling. He stroked the back of her head comfortingly. Yunil, you've already done so much. You made him happy just by being here. Cry as much as you need tonight, but tomorrow, focus on cherishing every moment with him. Build beautiful memories together. The next morning, Yun Seol went to her grandpa's room where he was reading the newspaper. Good morning, Grandpa. Have you had breakfast? Did you take your medicine? She asked. Her aunt's voice rang out from the side. Yunil, you know how stubborn he is when it comes to taking his medicine. Sitting beside him, Yunil crossed her hand. Grandpa, you must take your medicine on time. I'll make sure of it while I'm here, she said firmly. Jinyong soon entered the room. Good morning, Grandpa, he greeted warmly. Good morning, Jinyong. I heard you're heading back to the city today, Grandpa said. Yes, Grandpa. I have something to attend to tomorrow, and Jinso's school is starting, Jinyong explained. Then, Yuni will spend some time with your husband before he leaves, Grandpa suggested. Okay, Grandpa, but you must take care of yourself, she said, her tone filled with care. As they left, Junyong glanced at her. Are you feeling better now? He asked. Yes, thanks to you, she replied, clinging to his arm. Would you like to go out before I leave? He suggested. Oh, you mean like a date? She teased. Yeah, something like that, he said with a smile. You're right. It's been a while since we spent time together. But I don't think now is the right time, she said hesitantly. It's okay. We can go another time, Junyong said, trying to hide his disappointment. Suddenly, her eyes lit up. How about we go to the supermarket? She suggested excitedly. The supermarket? Junyong repeated, confused. Later at the supermarket, Junyong pushed the cart while Yunil browsed. So, what are you going to cook for lunch? He asked. Actually, I'm not very good at cooking, she admitted, looking embarrassed. But I'll learn if you tell me what you like. So, what do you like? She asked, turning to him. He answered with a mischievous smile. What do I like? I like you. Her eyes widened, and she froze at his sudden confession. He leaned in and placed a soft kiss on her cheek. I like you. Yun Seol, he repeated. People cast scrutinizing glances their way, but they paid no attention, lost in the warmth of each other's embrace. Back at the house, Junyong and Juno prepared to leave. Everyone stood outside to bid them farewell. Let me know once you've reached home, Yun Seol called out. As they drove away, her grandpa turned to her. You should have gone with your husband, Yun Seol. It's fine, Grandpa. I still have plenty of vacation time, and Jinyong doesn't mind, she said, smiling brightly. I'm really happy for you, Grandpa said, his voice filled with satisfaction. Over the next few days, while Junyoung was away, Yoon Seol spent quality time with her grandfather, ensuring he followed his schedule and took his medication. At night, when Yoon Seol had some free time, she decided to call Junyoung to talk about her grandfather's health. Junyoung, are you home? She asked as the call connected. Oh, I'm still at the office, he replied curtly. Are you with someone? She asked. Yes, he answered simply. Oh, sorry for disturbing you. I just wanted to talk. Are you busy? She asked, her voice soft. Yeah, kind of, he replied. Then I'll call you another time, she said before hanging up, disappointment creeping into her voice. Communication became difficult while they were apart. Junyoung was always busy with work, making it harder to stay connected. The next morning, Yunal overslept and woke up late. She went to her grandpa's room and knocked. Grandpa, are you awake? She called out, opening the door. I made breakfast, and you need to take your medicine, she said, pulling back the curtains. When there was no response, she turned back and hurried to his bedside. Grandpa, she called out, grabbing his hand. Her eyes froze on him. His hand was cold. Grandpa, she yelled, her voice shaking and desperate. The commotion alerted the rest of the family, and everyone rushed to the room. But it was too late. Her grandfather was gone. At the funeral, Yunil sat in silence, her tears long dried with Sukin and Gyeong Yoon by her side, offering quiet comfort. Yuni, Mr. Kong hasn't arrived yet. Are you sure you informed him? Yangun asked, her voice filled with concern. He might still be busy, Yunil replied, lowering her head. Let me call him, Sukin suggested, pulling out his phone. But Yuni stopped him, shaking her head. It's fine, Sukin. I'll try calling him again. She dialed Junyoung's number. When he picked up, she asked, Where are you? Yuni, I'm sorry. I might be late for Grandpa's funeral, Junyoung said from the other side. There's a matter I need to attend to. It's better if you proceed without me. And if you hear any news, please have faith in me. Faith? Was she supposed to have faith in him? Yunio's thoughts are spiraling. But what is there to trust anymore? All I want is to wake up from this nightmare and see Grandpa sitting on the sofa with his usual warm smile. But deep down, she knew this wasn't a dream. It was the harsh reality. Her aunt approached, her tone edged with dissatisfaction. Yuni, where is your husband? You informed him, didn't you? He said he'll be late. Yunio replied quietly. What could possibly be more important than being here for you at a time like this? Her aunt said with a sigh. I thought Mr. Kong was different, but he's just like the others, always putting work first. I'm disappointed. If I'd known earlier, I wouldn't have supported this hasty marriage. She shook her head. Even your grandpa would have been heartbroken to see this. Anyway, I'll attend to the guests. Make sure to call him again. As her aunt walked away, Yun Sales stared at her phone. She had already called him, but there was still no reply. What could possibly be more important than Grandpa's funeral? Soon, Mr. and Mrs. Kong arrived. Mrs. Kong embraced Yun Seal, her voice full of sympathy. I'm so sorry we couldn't come immediately, dear. It was so sudden. Be strong, my child. Has Junyoung not arrived yet? Mr. Kong asked. No, not yet, Yuneo replied. What is he doing? Mrs. Kong asked, frustrated as she dialed her son's number. Mr. Kong explained. There was some urgent news he needed to handle. It's already been resolved, so he should have been here by now. News? He mentioned something earlier, but why didn't he tell me? Was it really that important? Yin wondered. It's okay, father. He'll come soon. Yin assured them, managing a weak smile despite her exhaustion. Sorry, dear. He shouldn't have left you alone like this. Mrs. Kong said, visibly worried. I understand, mother. Please rest now, Yunale said, trying to console them. As everyone left, her aunt advised her, get some rest. Your uncle and I will handle things. Just then, Junyang's voice broke through the room. I'm sorry I'm late. He stood at the door, his face filled with remorse. Where have you been, Mr. Kong? Her aunt asked, her dissatisfaction clear. Without answering, Jinyang rushed toward Yuniel and pulled her into a tight embrace. I'm so sorry, Yunal. Are you okay? He asked softly. Tears she tried to hold back now flowed freely. It's too late, Jinyang. Grandpa's gone. Why are you only showing up now? She asked, her voice trembling as she pushed him away. Jinyang fell silent for a moment, then pulled out his phone and showed her a picture. There were rumors likely started by Sujin. I had to hold a press conference at TJ Corp to shut them down. Her eyes widened. Isn't this from Guam? Yes, he confirmed. I don't know when she took it. That's why I asked you to trust me, he said, pressing a kiss to the back of her hand. I didn't want to burden you with this, especially now. But I'm sorry I left you alone during such a difficult time. I'll stay with you as long as you need. If you need time, then it's fine, she interrupted, clinging to him and letting her tears flow. A few weeks later, as Yunal and Soyeon strolled down a quiet street. She asked, "Soon, what do you guys like as gifts? Are you planning to give me one?" He joked, "Anything you pick would be fine." "No, I mean for Jin Young," she clarified, a little embarrassed. "We're celebrating our 100-day anniversary soon, but I don't know what to get him," she admitted, clearly worried. "I think Young is better than me at picking gifts," So said thoughtfully. "Don't you know what Mr. Kong likes?" he asked, turning to CEO, only to see her already peering into the display of a nearby shop. It was a set of dumbbells. "Dumbbells as a gift?" he asked, surprised. "Yes, he likes to work out," she replied confidently. "Then what's stopping you?" he asked, watching her deliberation. "This dinner feels awkward," she admitted, her voice tinged with worry. "Since Grandpa passed, it feels like we've been postponing things." "It's okay, Yuniel," so reassured her. "I think both Grandpa and Mr. Kong wouldn't want you to be sad. Don't dwell on it too much. And besides, you know him better than anyone. All men show their feelings through actions," he added with a small smile. When they reached the kind residence, Soyeon said, "Yuni, just hand over the gifts to your in-laws, and I'll take you to the restaurant." "Thank you, Sakyeon," she said gratefully. Inside, she handed a bag to Mrs. King. "What is this?" Mrs. King asked, curious. "Just a few gifts to thank you all for always taking care of me," Yin Seal replied with a warm smile. Mrs. King took her hand and gave it a gentle squeeze. "What's wrong, Mom?" Yuniel asked, surprised by the sudden gesture. "Nothing," Mrs. King said softly, her voice filled with emotion. "I'm just so grateful to you. Ever since you came, both brothers have grown closer, and Junyoung seems more connected to the family. I'm truly grateful." But she paused, her tone shifting. "I also feel guilty." "Why, Mom?" "You haven't done anything wrong," Yunio replied, concerned. Mrs. Kong hesitated, her gaze lowering. "At first, I thought Junyoung didn't truly love you," she admitted. "I believed he married you only to repay a debt. Your grandfathers and Mr. Choice repay a debt." Yunio's voice wavered, her eyes wide with shock.